Hello, this is Jessica. I'm a board member, HOA board member. I'm the secretary this year, and I wanted to share my thoughts and kind of experiences um, around the rental restrictions document that we as a board created. We put out the policy and ended up bringing it back because we need to kind of reevaluate and consider some changes. And I just want to say thank you to all the neighbors who reached out and shared some of their questions and concerns. First, I want to say I really don't see that there's much of a difference between renters and HOA members or homeowners. The homeowner is the actual HOA member. So while a renter is not an official HOA member, they can pretty much do all the same things. They can use the amenities, attend board meetings, attend HOA events. They can serve on a committee. They can serve as a board member. And I believe they can have voting rights if the landlord assigns it to them, that capability. So really, there's not a whole lot of difference between a renter and a homeowner, but I just wanted to share that. Currently, I feel like these are my potential or the potential challenges that I see. We have an unknown number of rentals in Dorado Ranch. We have no idea how many rentals we really have. I feel like that the rental properties, there is a breakdown or lack of communication. Transients, the moving in and out of the neighborhood causes a challenge. Um, there's lack of involvement or cohesiveness, and with tenants moving more frequently than homeowners, um, there's less involvement in the actual homes and properties, and we struggle a little bit with rule enforcement. And from what I am reading and learning is that a high number of rentals can pose a security risk. So let me share a little bit more about that. The unknown number of rentals in Dorado Ranch. We have 809 homes, and at the beginning of January, or I'm sorry, the beginning of 2025 in January, Blue Hawk had 22 homes registered as rentals. So either the owner reported that they have a rental and then told Blue Hawk about who the tenant was and made communication arrangements. Only 22 homes, or 2.5% of our 809 homes, were reported rentals at the beginning of the year. In August, we got up to 43 homes reported rentals, and I believe this was due to the rental, policy, finding policy that the board put out in May, because we made it a requirement for rentals to report those properties as rentals. But of course, we think we have much higher number. Currently, there is no requirement for an owner to report if they have a rental, and that's something that we are wanting to change. Since we don't really know how many rentals we have, we cannot create any sort of statistics on which number or which percentage of violations belongs to rentals, which percentage of violations belongs to homeowners. Absolutely no statistics can be generated because of that. We estimate, we think we may have about 20% or 160 homes that are rentals. Now, you as a homeowner, you can go on Tax Appraisal District and search up an address, and there are a couple of clues that indicate that it may be a rental. If the owner address is different than that of the property address, that is a clue. And also, if there's no homestead exemption, that's another clue that it may be a rental. Of course, we don't really know unless somebody reports it, and we don't know for sure. But if you go to Tax Appraisal District, you can search those things and you can find out for yourself. But I think that's a problem, the fact that we don't even know which homes are rentals and which homes are owner occupied. Um, I think that's a challenge. but I'll go more into that a little bit later. Communication is my biggest struggle, I feel like, or our biggest challenge. Um, since the homeowners are the HOA members, all communication goes to them. So whether the homeowner is in Fort Worth or California, North Carolina, or overseas, every piece of communication that we send out from the HOA goes to that homeowner. There is no requirement for that homeowner to communicate or share those communications with the people who occupy the homes. Um, and I feel like it's a potential that those landlords, um, maybe the communication, since it's not their primary home, they don't live here, they don't really need to know what's going on. I think that sometimes our communication falls on deaf ears, so to speak. And I'm not saying that it's just rentals, homeowners also, we have busy lives. So it's a potential that the emails that we send out to homeowners also remain unseen. But there's some experiences as a board member that I've had. Like, for example, we had that, what we are calling a courtesy meeting to talk about this document. We had a landlord who kind of admitted that they hadn't seen their home in 4 years and really are not playing a large role or really paying attention to that property. We had a landlord who was pretty upset about the document that we put out, but then we received an email that they didn't even know if their annual dues were paid. They were asking, "Hey, are my annual dues paid?" Um, and also, we have a landlord who is a local landlord. They didn't even know that we put out a new rule policy in May. In May, we tried to put out a new fining policy and that had stricter violations on rentals, which we did find out legally we couldn't do that. We have a good lawyer now, so we've learned from that. But in May, we thought we could put this new rule document out. We worked with our management company. We worked with our current lawyer at that time. We sent the community several emails. We even held a meeting and presented this document and explained what it meant and how and when it would go into effect. But again, there's a local landlord who didn't even know that had happened, and I feel like by just the number of rentals that were reported, we had like what, 20 something that went up to 40 something. If landlords were paying attention to that document and they understood that they could be fined, there were some heavy fines in that document. If they were paying attention, I think we would have had more rentals register. So that's part of the communication problem that I feel like we have. Let's see. So another kind of challenge with the communication breakdown, the people in the homes, the renters, they don't get any notification now unless the homeowner forwards the information. There's always a possibility the homeowner does forward the information, but in my experience, I feel like the majority of time this does not happen. So the pool openings, the pool closing, the problems at the pool, meeting updates, social activities, safety and community problems or challenges, any kind of notification that goes out, there's no requirement that that goes to the person living in the home, and and I feel like that's a big problem. I would like to see with this rental policy, it become a requirement that the homeowner and the person living in the home receive certain updates. Of course, the annual assessment, the person living in the home doesn't have anything to do with that. They wouldn't have any need to receive certain documents, but because they're welcome to attend the meetings and they're welcome to play a part in social activities, I feel like we should absolutely be including the people, the residents in our communication. And so, all right. Also, involvement and like no neighborhood cohesiveness. I feel transients or the people that move out more frequently, it causes less stability. Typically, renters stay for a much shorter time. I found a study that showed the average home ownership in Texas is 7.5 years. So, when you think about a neighborhood and you getting to know your neighbors and looking out for kids and helping each other and having barbecues or whatever, 7.5 years versus 1 year might be. I don't know what the average is. I didn't look up the average rental. We do have some renters who have been here for years, which is fabulous because, of course, that does lend to the ongoing involvement and cohesiveness. The longer people are here, the more likely I feel like the potential for them to get involved would be. We had a landlord, when we rolled out this document, we had a landlord that insisted that we should consider rentals for 30 days at a time. We're asking for, I believe we're renting rentals or leases, the minimum time be 12 months. And someone said that they believe that they should be able to rent their home for 30 days at a time to business people. And I just think that's a problem, or could be potential for problems. 30 days at a time to me is like a short term rental. And those short stays make it hard to develop relationships and hard to create a sense of belonging, as an HOA, because there's just less involvement. And I feel like I can attest to that. I know we're all getting busy and we all have our own lives, but as the years have gone on, there is far less involvement in general, and far less involvement in social activities and in volunteering. Um, anyway, so that I feel like that just the short stay lends to less participation and kind of a downward spiral in community spirit. Um, okay, and then the next thing, concern of mine, is the property appearance and upkeep. Um, Now, as far as violations go, again, like I said earlier, homeowners, renters, there's no difference, right? We have a problem throughout the neighborhood with the upkeep of properties. Part of that is because we had some problems with Blue Hawk. And let me see if I have my notes. At the beginning of my term in October 2024, Blue Hawk was doing monthly drives. Instead of biweekly violation drives, they were contracted to do monthly drives. So they would come out every 4 weeks to look at everybody's grass and trash cans. Um, at that time, they were giving 2 courtesy notices. So that means if they came out once a month, they would give a courtesy notice, and then a whole nother month would pass by. And if that same violation was there, then there'd be another courtesy notice. So it was like 3 months before we would even approach the possibility of issuing a financial assessment or a violation. And I really don't think that the majority of the time that we've been with Blue Hawk, we have really collected many violations. In my experience, I've seen mostly courtesy notices. Um, but we did add at the beginning of 2025 another violation drive, a biweekly drive, and then we asked them to kind of tighten down on what they were looking for. And of course, many of you all saw, if you're on social media, you saw the kind of feedback from the neighborhood and the community on that, cracking down about trash cans and stuff like that. Still to this day, Blue Hawk will only send out one violation at a time. For example, I know of one house that has overgrown weeds and they have lawn edges, like on the sidewalk, that have not been edged. Their flower beds are way overgrown. There's a for lease sign. For lease signs are not allowed. So there are like 4 or 5 violations that this one home has, and Blue Hawk, the management company, will only send out one violation at a time. So that means it has to go through the courtesy notice and the violation notice for each one of these things before they approach the next. For me, that's a problem, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to seek alternate community management. And we're hopeful that First Service, we did discuss with First Service that the appearance of our neighborhood has gone down overall. And the way they've explained that they do community drives and issue violations, it sounds like it's going to be better. So anyway, so by the looks of the property, again, I don't think it's rental versus homeowner. I don't think it's local landlord versus out-of-state landlord. It just really doesn't matter. It's hit and miss. You have good and bad appearances of homes, period. We have received as a board many notifications of overcrowding, multiple families living in a home. Um, Parking is becoming a problem, super crowded streets. I've received several private messages and read several emails where one home has upwards of 5, 6, 7 cars, which causes problems with parking and traffic. The difficulty enforcing rules and regulations. We rely on the owners to communicate. And so I think that maybe the people who are living in the homes might not even know what the requirements are. This rental restrictions will require the homeowner to give the whole, CCNRs to the people living in the homes. Um, there is less, there's less investment and upkeep potentially in properties. Now, during our courtesy meeting, we did hear from a gentleman who has a rental property right next to him, and the rental property looks far better than a lot of the homeowner homes, or the home or the owner occupied homes. So again, when I'm saying stuff, there's really no blanket statement, and it's really not fair to group um, people or homes. But we did hear from several people that when they themselves lived in a rental property, they were not likely to um, add things that would improve the curb appeal because it's not their home, so they're not going to invest in it. And landlords would not typically invest in making the home look better because they want to just make sure that they're able to make money. Now, again, this is not like the end all be all, it doesn't include everybody. Um, but those are some of the issues that we have um, regarding property, like the appearance and upkeep. Let's see. Yep. Okay. The next thing is reading that it poses a large number of rentals in an HOA poses security risk. Like there are greater security risks with the increased number of rental properties. Currently, there is no requirement for our landlords to do a background check. Um, I feel like that leaves the potential for nefarious activity. We have had, I just can't even tell you how many reports we've had of just suspicious activity, cars kind of coming and going all through the night. Um, like through AM hours, 2 and 3 a.m. We've had an increase of theft, people breaking into vehicles. We have a lot of vacant homes, and property damage can occur on or around a property, and the HOA owns certain things like walls and fences, and the HOA can become responsible if if there's somebody not in a home and some damage occurs. Um, if something happens and there's nobody in the house to identify what happened and help us hold that person accountable, then the HOA becomes responsible for that repair. Um, if a car hit something and we don't really know about it, and there was no report because there's nobody in the home to tell us about it, then we have to foot that bill. Um, so many vacant homes. We had some reports of squatters moving into a home, and I really don't know the legality, but I've heard that we can't legally, or the landlord can't legally remove them, or that it's very difficult to remove them. We have had several properties over the last year with pictures like on social media where we just have front lawns full of a household of furniture. I don't know if it's homeowners moving out. Now, when I see a report, I Google it, like I look it up on TAD, and it has been rentals um, every time I've ever looked into it. But again, like furniture all on the front lawn, it seems that maybe an eviction or something like that. Um, and I feel like, or what I've heard is that doing background checks kind of prevents this from happening so much. You know, you get a better quality tenant who stays longer, and, you know, some of these things can be prevented, I guess. Um, let's see. Okay, so I did want to share some notes. Oh, actually, before I move on from security risk, oops, sorry about that. I did want to let everybody know the president of Alliance area has sent an email to the board, um, because several communities in our area are facing the same problems, like degradation of neighborhoods, increased crime, large percentage of rentals, and they are getting together, getting some resources for local board members so that they can work on their rental restrictions policies. So we may be one of the first to do this, and there have been some kind of growing pains that we've experienced. But he said that there has been an increased report of crime and violence, and he said some as serious as drive-by shootings. Now, I'm just kind of repeating what I read in an email. I don't know anything about it, but just to let everybody know, I know we had several questions that are like, why? What's the real problem? As board members, we do see and hear things that we can't share with the community. We cannot point out a specific lot or person. So there's a lot of stuff that I see and hear about that would not be mainstream information for our homeowners. Um, but just to let you know, it is a common problem right now in our area, and there are a lot of HOAs that are looking to put these rental restrictions in place. Okay, so I wanted to share a couple of notes. I shared already about the violations, like it's just a community-wide problem, and I feel like um, that our management company can help us with that, or some of the problems that we've had in the past was due to a misalignment in how to manage the property. But First Service Residential starts for us November 1st, and we hope to see some changes in that area. So please keep an eye out to your email and read and listen to the changes that are coming, because it's easier to read and learn about it before it happens, because once the fines happen, um, those are pretty much set, you know, we can't waive violations for one and not for everyone, and fines. So please keep an eye out, because we are going to try really hard to have great communication with the new management company and give a heads up when we're going to be starting to do violations and starting to look for things, so that hopefully everybody has a heads up. Okay, we already discussed rentals that are becoming a problem locally. It's not just us. Um, Quality tenants with less turnover. I just feel like if we have less vacant homes and our homes are well maintained and we have quality tenants, it's going to benefit everybody. So our landlords are going to be better able to find quantity or quality tenants, because our neighborhood is going to look nice. It's going to feel good. It's going to have um, it's going to have that family. I don't know if family is the right word, but it's just going to have a good atmosphere, and people are going to want to live here, and they're going to want to stay longer. Renters, will want to stay longer. Um, and so, anyway, so I think quality tenants with less turnover is going to be a benefit for everyone. Now, as for the requirement for reporting rentals and tenants, and the requirement for reporting the details of tenants and the number of vehicles. This is going to help us keep an eye on, in these rental properties, when people come and go, how many people are in the home, how many vehicles they have. And our lawyer, from what I remember, he said this is totally legal. He recommends we collect this information, and anyway, that we are legally allowed to, and that it is a good idea to have this information recorded when we have new tenants come in. Now, the board is going to discuss the changes, and then we're going to work with our lawyer, and then we'll probably have some informational meetings that will go more into depth with whatever the board decides to require to be reported. I know some of us are talking about the things that we're asking are too much. Some of us feel kind of good about it. But anyway, so once we come to a conclusion as a board, we're gonna present everything to the community, and I believe First Service will help us with that. First Service is very knowledgeable, I feel like, about rules, bylaws, and CCNRs, and I feel like they're going to be a good partner for us. Um, so the homeowners association will have the ability to remove rental permissions from owners who are repeat violation offenders. So if they owe a fine, we do have rentals that owe a considerable fine. If they owe any money, they are not going to be able to continue to rent their homes. If they get repetitive violations, or they're not keeping their homes looking nice, they're not going to be able to continue to rent. Again, for those who take care of their homes and have, good systems set up and good tenants, this is not a problem. But those problems that we do have, this document will help us resolve those. Um, so the rental restrictions, I also believe, will improve the Dorado Ranch overall property appearance as well as the homes, just because of the things that we've talked about, quality tenants and better communication. So I think that probably 99% of our tenants, or I don't know, 80%, whatever the percentage is, maybe they don't know they're supposed to edge their lawn, or maybe they don't know that they're not supposed to have certain things on the front. I know we have a lot of people parking on the grass. Parking is crazy here in Dorado Ranch. Maybe they don't know that they're not supposed to park on the grass. But this document will help us um, just be better communicators. There's a requirement that the people living in the homes get this information. I believe it will improve security. I believe it will improve the character and cohesiveness and the community spirit. I'm big on social stuff. I would love for tenants to be part of the social committee, or, you know, I want everybody to be involved. And like right now, I feel like when I'm planning something, it's like nobody hears, nobody sees, nobody knows. And it might be because maybe you don't like me, or maybe you don't want to be social, and that's all okay. But I wonder if we have some tenants, some renters who would like to be a part of these things. You live in this neighborhood, we have social events. You're in a home that belongs to the HOA, you should be able to participate if you want to. And I'm not certain that they know that they can, and I'm not certain that they know or that they get these notifications. Um, I'm pretty sure that all of us board members are on board with a cap increase. When we put that 5% cap in effect, I thought it was going to be a grandfathered situation, and I received contradicting information about that. But the lawyer has confirmed that if we put a 5% cap into effect, then that 5% cap goes into effect immediately, and we can only have 5% rentals. So that would force a flood of homes to be sold, or whatever. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants a force of a bunch of homes to be forced to be sold. Now, some may sell because they don't like our rental restrictions, but um, I don't believe that to be a high number. People who I know, I have 4 or 5 friends in the neighborhood who are landlords, and I've had no problem with their tenants, no problem with them, or no problem. So anyway, we I believe the cap will be increased to encompass the rentals that we have. The problem is, the challenge becomes, how do we know what that number is? Because a large percentage of our renters or rental properties have not reported that they are rentals. So that's going to be interesting. And we would also like to add, like, a greater description of protection for homeowners facing hardship, or homeowners who have lived here for a while who want to rent their home um, for whatever reason. I know that one of my friends said that she's lived here for a long time, and she was planning on selling her house, but now she might be moving in with her son, and she might want to rent her house. So we are trying to consider all angles when we're looking at this document, but we as a team believe, and especially me, I believe that this document, I think we need something. I think we need something. Okay, so I'm gonna address. I'm sorry, this has been such a long video, but I'm gonna address some of the comments and questions that I've received on social media and then at our meeting. Um, One of our homeowners asked that we elaborate on the problems. Hopefully, I've done that in this video, explain some of the problems, and then some of the benefits that this document will address. Um, Someone said that there's an unfair criteria, extra screening for tenants where it's not for homeowners. I've read information where certain people specifically rent instead of buying a home because it's easier to go in and go out if you're up to no good, you know. Again, I'm not saying that's everybody, um, but the information and the screening materials that we are requesting, it is all legal. Everything that we are requesting is legal for a board to request. The board is not screening tenants. We are not approving people. We are requiring our owners to attest that they have done certain things, like done a background check, or, we are requiring our owners to do this information or do these background checks and gather information on their tenants to make sure that they have a quality tenant, and then they attest or they guarantee the HOA that they've done their due diligence in getting good tenants into our neighborhood. Um, Someone asked, how much will it cost to carry out this amendment? I think that's a great question, one that we will discuss with First Service, because like I said, I would like documents to be mailed to the home and to the owner, appropriate documents. I would like every landlord to have to set up a portal for their tenants so that the tenants can access information and social activities. So there is going to be a cost to that. Um, my answer to that is that's where our annual rental fee comes in. We're going to have to offset that cost somewhere. And I don't feel like homeowners like me, I'm just a homeowner. I'm an owner right now, living in my house. I may 10 years down the line want to rent my home. I don't think that I should bear the burden of that cost for people who are owning homes in the neighborhood where it's an investment, where they're gaining hopefully some sort of financial gain, or at least it's an investment. These properties that are landlord owned, they are investment properties, and there's a cost that goes along with doing business. And I would like to see, um, any expenses that the HOA incurs to uphold rentals that would be passed on to the landlords. Um, about property values, currently the market is just terrible for rent or for sale. Regardless, no matter what, everything seems to be stagnant. Um, like I said, the 5% cap, I thought it was grandfathered, so I thought a 5% cap would be like a goal that we would eventually reach over 10 or 15 years. I was totally wrong. Apologize for that. Um, so we're gonna have to come up with some way for us to realize or learn how many rentals we have so that we can get a good legitimate number, because I would rather the majority of our homes be owned. We did have a time during COVID where all these outside companies, these investors came in and bought up homes before homeowners had a chance, so that's not really fair, I don't feel. I'd rather, homeowners be afforded the opportunity to get a home. But I understand that when you're selling your home, you want to sell your home. You don't want to have to wait. You don't want to have to lower the price. Anyway, um, so there's that. We will be looking at the cap and considering property values and considering what is best for everyone. Again, I want to say the document is legal. Everything that we are asking in here, we have experienced, unfortunately, we've had some bad experiences with a lawyer that we didn't feel that was really super knowledgeable in the HOA area. And so we did a lot of research and we found legal representation that we are confident in, that a lot of people in our area use, and that's what they do, is they specialize in HOA. So we are in a good place. What we're asking, everything is legal. We have the right to do. The board does not have the right or the ability to pass this on their own. So we have people who are threatening legal action, which I find highly offensive because everyone in the HOA foots that bill. Someone sent us a threatening um, legal email that we've had to ask the lawyer to respond to. So that's an expense that the HOA has incurred because somebody wanted to, um, kind of get nasty. We're asking for everybody's input because we want to pass this as a community. We want buy-in. Yes, we've made mistakes, or I don't want to speak for the other board members. Yes, I've made mistakes. I'm going to own that mistake. I want to come to an agreement or the best possible agreement as a community. Um, so, just so everybody knows, the board cannot do this on their own, but I believe the board believes that this document is necessary, and we do want this document passed. So that's what we're going to work towards. We're going to work to passing this document, getting a document that can be passed. But it is 100% legal. There is nothing in here that we could be um, sued for. And our lawyer tells us that the state of Texas really sides with HOAs. But again, we don't want to be in any kind of fight. We don't want to be legal battles, or we don't want to create legal battles. We don't want to create anything uncomfortable for our homeowners or our landlord owners. We want to work together to come to the best document, the best restrictions that we can. Um, Again, we cannot specify. A lot of people were asking what percentage of our problems lie with homeowners versus rentals. How could we possibly know? How could we possibly know that when we don't even know which of our properties are rentals? There's no way to know that. And then not even to mention our problem with violations. The top 10 violations, again, I feel like I can't generate a report based on my experience with the way we did violations with Blue Hawk. Um, so as we go into first service, I think we can get better information, and then we can put that out to the community. Someone had mentioned house sitting. House sitting is in the document. Um, our lawyer said that house sitting, that clause is added in there so that if someone attempts to say, so and so is house sitting. It's not a lease or it's not a rental. They're house sitting for 5 months or they're house sitting for a year. That's kind of like a catch-all to prevent someone from saying it's house sitting when it really is a rental and they're just trying to kind of squeak under. Let's see. I want to thank all the homeowners and the landlords who came to the meeting and spoke up and um, said what they were thinking. We had a homeowner who said, we're not supporting the document, like the board isn't telling why we support it. So hopefully this answers, like, I didn't really kind of want to give any answers that night because it's such a complex scenario and it's not like a hard and fast one problem situation. Um, but anyway, I do support the document. There were some things in there that were, I found out that were not good and that need to be changed. And so that's why we are where we are. Our goals, or my goals, are, of course, to crack down on violations. That's community wide, owners and landlords, but cracking down on violations and communication. I think communication will help with the violations. And then, so violations, safety and security, um, communication, increased communication and community involvement, security, and then just overall bringing up the neighborhood in general. And the plan for enforcement, we're going to work with First Service. We have not officially started with them, so information about that will come. The costs, we already talked about that. Let's see, the HOAs around us. I feel like we're pioneers. We have not been able to get our hands on many rental restrictions documents because they're in the same position we are. They're looking at what they want to do. And the president of Alliance, he asked to see our document because he doesn't have them. Like I said, we're all kind of going in this together. Um, let's see. And I think that's it. I think that's all I wanted to share. Again, I wanted to just thank everybody, even if you don't agree. I want to say, if you didn't hear, we did have a homeowner at the courtesy meeting. He said he lived in Florida when they talked about rental restrictions. He was dead set against it, but the longer he lived there, and then when it came time to sell his home, he realized that there was a benefit and that it did increase the value of the homes in his community. And so um, that's what our goal is. I believe that's what our goal is. And this is again, this is Jessica, the secretary. We have currently we have 4 board members, and everybody's different. Everybody has different thoughts and opinions and feelings. This is not a legal anything. This is not a legal anything. This is just to share my information or share my thoughts and share my experiences. I'm not meaning to throw anybody under the bus or put anybody out there, but I feel like I need to share some specifics so that everybody understands why I think the way I do. Now, we may be sharing other information from board members. I know Deborah put together a very good document, so we'll probably be sending that out just so that we share information, um, you know, as a view from the board member. If you're still listening, I want to say thank you for listening. I know it was a long video. I appreciate you, and I hope you all have a good morning, afternoon, or evening.